Like notes through the hourglass, these are the songs of our lives. Hello and welcome to the latest episode of Songs of Our Lives. I am Brad Rose. I am a musician, a composer, a writer, the founder of Foxy, Digitalis, and someone who thinks about music and sound far more than is healthy. Each week I invite on a guest and we talk about the songs that have meant the most to them and been with them along their journey. This week I am really excited to have MIZU, who she is a composer, a musician, a cellist. She's such a good cellist and just someone who really only came on my radar sometime, I guess last year when her first record came out, and I was immediately just kind of smitten with it. And so she's got a new record coming out on March 22nd via NNA Tapes called Forest Scenes. And it, that it's always really interesting to see how like a progression from a first record to a second record. And this, it sort of takes a lot of the things that I loved about Distant Intervals. That's the first one. And just kind of, it puts it in a kind of different context, but also expands on it in ways that I feel like I have an even better understanding of her vision. And speaking of that, this episode will really like kind of added a lot of context and stuff. It was great. And one of the things that was so much fun about this episode is I feel like I went to school in a way. MIZU is one of the first people who picked a lot of classical pieces for some of these questions. And we'll, when you hear her background and stuff, that'll all make sense. But I learned so much from this episode. It was awesome. I loved it. And so we recorded this recently, had a lot of fun. I hope you enjoy it. My guest today is a musician, a composer, and a badass cellist. It's MIZU. Welcome to the show.
Hi, thanks so much for having me. Really excited to be here.
I can't wait. So one of the things I want to say at the top, and when I got your list of songs the other day, and just looking at it, like without even thinking about, because I have no idea what categories they go with, I was just like, oh my gosh, this is like so much makes sense. Like I was like, this is like, I feel like I have a better understanding of your music just seeing this list, and it's awesome. So.
Totally. Yeah, it really becomes, I mean, my own work is truly, I guess, just a melting pot of all of these different, influences and sounds that I'm encountering on a daily basis. This is really fun to, come up with the list for everything.
I'm glad. Some people think it's fun. Some people think it's torture. So, I think it's kind of somewhere in between. But speaking of your own music, so you have a new record, Forest Scenes, that is out on March 22nd.
Yes.
And so there's a lot, I could ask you a lot of things about it because I really, really like this record. But one of the things that kind of maybe talked about in the description was like the sort of the philosophical quality of it and themes that I'm just kind of curious, like what maybe like philosophical themes you were like exploring or thinking about and how they sort of manifest in the sound of the record.
Okay, big question.
We're gonna start it off, simple.
Yeah. Well, okay. So I guess just to preface my answer, I started working on Forest Scenes immediately after finishing Distant Intervals. I think it was like the day after. I just wanted to, start, just exploring new territory, I suppose. In Distant Intervals, I primarily used samples of my own cello playing, as building blocks for these referential compositions. And in forest scenes, I wanted to start more on the electronics end, and so I took, still using these acoustic samples as seeds for the compositions, but seeing what I could do to kind of twist and morph and transform them until they sounded, nothing like the original. And, I guess in regard to the title and sort of the thematic concept of the album, I was always fascinated with this particular classical piece by Robert Schumann, which is also called Four Scenes or Waldszenen, in its original German title. It's one of the pieces I picked for today, actually. Right. And I always just adored this piece. It's for solo piano. It's sort of from the later period of composition in Schumann's life. He was writing in the early 1800s, so kind of at the height of German Romanticism, if you will. And this piece, Forest Scenes, was kind of about a journey into the woods. The first movement is called Entry. The last movement is called Farewell. And in between, you have these beautiful, dreamlike movements or scenes within this imaginary magical forest. And it was such a, I don't know, it was so fascinating to me, so simple, yet so much beauty and wonder and magic within the score. And so I wanted to create, I guess, my own forest, my own cello forest.
I love that.
And so, yeah, I guess for me that meant branching out into a bunch of musical styles, different production techniques, just really challenging myself, to get outside of, I guess, what I kind of reared up in distant intervals. So kind of a response to that album, I guess.
Yeah. I was really excited when I saw that, which we'll talk about the Forest Scenes, the Schumann piece more. But when I saw that on your list, I was like, oh, because that was new to me. Like that was a piece I hadn't heard before, and it's magic.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Highly recommend to everyone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love I love the idea of creating your own forest with and just the forest. I don't know. The forest is like a thing that I think about all the time and is in different ways, but it also mentions like the forest is a metaphor for like queer spaces. And I was wondering if you could talk more about that, because I thought that was a really like when I first got this and was reading that, like it really got me thinking about a lot of different things, and I really love that idea.
Yeah. It's funny, when I told my, friends at the time I was writing an album called Forest Scenes, they sort of laughed at me because I'm not really a nature person, You don't really find me putting on my hiking boots and going out into the woods, but I thought
you weren't writing this while camping out.
Right. I didn't go into, a log cabin and, bring my cello with me. I wish, but yeah, I think it's more about the forest as a metaphor for a space that's unexplored, that maybe hasn't been so carved out and composed, and I think that also relates very much to queer spaces and just a queer life in general, where you're sort of every day having to confront yourself and your body, and kind of what you want and are striving for in the future. the people, the communities that you want to be part of. Yeah, and so, interestingly, I composed or conceived most of the record while I was in an urban space. I was in city of Sao Paulo in Brazil with my partner for an extended period in the
Mm-hmm.
summer, and it was a brand new space to me, and just this urban environment, the incredible architecture, the community, the people that we met, um, became sort of like a forest, if you will,
Yeah.
or going back to this, unfamiliar
Yeah.
territory to me. Yeah.
I love that. Oh my gosh. That's great. Okay. That's great. Well, like, I could talk to you about this album for a lot longer, but um, we got a lot more to get to.
Yeah, no, for sure.
And we're going to talk about it a little bit when we get to the forest scenes thing, because I'm love to hear more about that. Oh,
Yeah.
I did really quick. The art for this is really, really beautiful. Can you
Oh,
tell me a
thank
little bit
you.
about it?
Yeah. So it's by my friend Digitalis Lee. Um, and they are primarily a graphic designer. We've known each other, through queer community in New York for quite some time now. And I approached them, with this idea of creating an album art that kind of mirrored the sort of the process in the music, where I'm using
Mm.
these recorded samples of my acoustic instrument and then electronically processing and layering and sort of collaging them. And you'll see in the album cover, it's these you know there's very noticeably a human hand. It's brushstrokes on a piece of printed paper, but if you sort of pinch in and zoom in, you see all these underlying textures, and they're actually um, you know digitally processed photographs. I won't go too much into detail because I probably can't explain, but essentially, they were trying to do what I did musically,
Oh, that's
visually.
cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, and also really exciting is the vinyl, where you'll see different iterations of the cover, different versions of the same
Oh, wow.
photograph when you open it up.
Oh, that's awesome.
So another little forest to explore.
Yes. Hey, I'm like, I like to go. I don't have hiking boots, but I like to go out in the forest. I don't camp, but I
Yeah.
love anything like, I don't know, this sort of recontextualizing of a forest and the idea. Like, I don't know. This is great. This is all so up my alley. Oh my God.
Amazing.
Um, okay. Well, we should get into it because we got a lot of
Yes.
songs to get through.
Yes, for
And
sure.
um, as ever, we start with, what is the first song that you remember?
Okay, yeah. So for this one, I picked the song T for Two, which is originally from the musical No No Nanette, which I think was written in the 1920s. Um, I could be wrong about that. But later it became really popular on the radio. There's a Doris Day rendition, and multiple
Yeah.
covers of it. And so the first time I heard this song, I guess I picked it because it really left an impact on me. I was 5 years old, um, had just moved to the suburbs of New York with my parents, and I think one of the first things we did as a family up there was go to this local high school production of No No Net.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and the town that I grew up in, I guess, is pretty well known for its incredible performing arts program, and
Hmm.
for their spring musical every year. I mean, it's just such an incredible thing where the entire community, parents, teachers, come together and contribute to this production. And I remember sitting there, I think we sat quite close to the orchestra up front, and just really, that was the moment I just fell in love with theater and performance, and um, the music, the costumes, the
Mm-hmm.
dancing, all the colors, the orchestra in front of me. Little 5-year-old me was utterly entranced. I think it was then that I decided, okay, I definitely want to be a performer someday. And this was before I had even started the cello.
Yeah.
And after that, I was, putting on my own little musicals at home. I think I had already started piano lessons at that point, and I think a few years later, I even composed my own little musical. So yeah, it was all very, very silly, very cute. Um, but that song, T for Two, really stuck with me, and was one that I was, singing to myself a lot. And actually, interestingly, years later, when I was in music conservatory for cello, classical music, I discovered this, I guess, cover, if you will, or orchestral arrangement of T for Two by Shostakovich.
Oh wow.
It's called, yeah, it's called Tahiti Trot, I believe. I
Oh my
think he
gosh.
orchestrated it in like an hour, supposedly, when I was doing research about it. But it's so delightful, and it really kind of showcases the different families of instruments within the orchestra and their characters. Um, yeah,
That's
it's
really
a real
cool.
treat to listen to. Yeah,
Yeah, I'm gonna have to
eventually
look that up.
check that out too.
Wow.
Yeah, yeah,
That's awesome.
yeah.
What a great memory. That's so I have a daughter and she's 10, and this past
Yes.
year she did a show choir thing, and then we went to this, I think it was the high school. It was either the high school or the middle school, but it was like a musical. It was Annie, and it
Oh,
like she totally like fell in love with it, and we were watching it happen. It was like, oh my gosh, like seeing your kid find, it's like
yeah.
she's found her thing. I can totally,
Oh my
yeah, it's the
gosh,
best.
that's
So
so exciting. Yeah,
yeah,
I think I saw on Twitter also that your she came home one day wanting to play the violin. Is that right?
yeah, she's going to be in 6th grade next year, and at her school that's when they can start taking band or orchestra. And I guess her class a couple weeks ago went and watched like the 6th grade orchestra, and she had not really expressed interest in it. Like we'd asked her, but I was doing my best to not push her, and like you, as much as I'm like, please, like this
Yeah.
is, music is all I think about. I didn't want to be that parent that was like, you got to follow in my footsteps. um
Right.
but yeah, she just came home and was like, I'm gonna join orchestra and I want to play the violin. And
That's
so I was
amazing.
like, yeah. And so now she's like violin or viola.
Oh,
Like
great.
again, if it was up to me, I'd be like cello, because like cello is like my favorite instrument, but I'm not going to be that person. So
Well, violin's pretty great. It's also, I don't know, it's easier to carry around as a parent. So
yeah, that's her
yeah.
big thing, is she doesn't want to have to carry around a cello or like a
Right.
bass.
Right. Oh,
So
I can relate.
yeah,
Yeah.
I can only imagine. But yeah, so I feel like it all started though, like with her going to a musical. So I think
Mm,
that I love it. So
that's amazing. Yeah. I mean, community theater and, music education in schools is, I mean, just
I know
so
it's so,
important.
oh yeah, and like I live in a place where they try to get rid of that in schools a lot, and
Right.
there's all sorts of, and it, like luckily they still have it in her school, and but oh my gosh, it's so important.
Yeah.
But anyway, I could like go on a whole rant. That could be a whole show. Um,
For sure.
um, well, what is a song that makes you cry? And
Mm.
do you consider yourself a crier?
Oh yeah,
Okay.
definitely. I cry all the time. And for all different reasons. Yeah,
Hmm.
I feel like a lot of these songs actually make me cry.
Yeah,
And cry not so much out of a sadness, but
sure.
in a sense that, they're so moving. And
Hmm.
also, I mean, songs, as we all know, are, links to our past and our lives and our memories, and you know
Yeah.
just really become just part of the fabric um, of our everyday and
Hmm.
our feelings and thoughts. And so, yeah, it just, music takes on more and more, or can take more and more power, as we spend more time and more years with them. Um,
Yeah.
so yeah, for this one, I picked a piece by Philip Glass. It's his Dance Number 3. And so I was thinking about this one in particular because at the moment I'm actually scoring my first ever piece for dance.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah, it's a 1 hour piece with these amazing choreographers in New York named Baya and Asa. And it's a production that'll actually be touring across the US over the coming months.
Wow.
So yeah, hopefully there'll be more info about that by the time this comes out.
Yeah.
But yeah, just thinking a lot about movement and I guess one really strong memory. I guess another one of these aha moments for me was when I saw this piece, the Philip Glass Dance Number 3 live. It was also my first time hearing it. This was in 2021, I believe, in New York at the Joyce Theater. So at that point, I think it was, a revival. I think the original production was definitely, um, I think in the 90s or maybe the 80s,
Hmm.
maybe earlier. I don't know. I don't have my facts right for this one, but um, such magic. It was also one of the first live productions, live theater pieces that I had seen since I guess COVID, the pandemic,
Oh, wow. Yeah.
and being back in the theater for the first time. It's utterly incredible. This piece. It's a piece choreographed by Lucinda Childs with a video projection by Sol Louis and music by Philip Glass. So it's all these like,
Wow.
incredible American
Right.
artists, coming together in the space of a theater. And I remember just watching it and being just so moved by everything, combined
Yeah.
with return to live performance
Right.
as an audience member. And so just thinking about it and just remembering those shivers that I got in the theater. I guess when I listen to it, makes me cry with
Yeah.
inspiration, I guess.
Yeah. I love this piece of music. It's so there's like a relentlessness to it, but in this sort of like joyful, cathartic way. Like not like I
Yeah.
don't know. A lot of times I think of music that's relentless as like kind of oppressive and very heavy, but this is just
Mm.
1,000 beams of light just going. Oh god, I love it so much.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think it's an organ that's kind of the main instrument with voices here.
Yeah.
And I read somewhere that, it kind of evokes like a carousel, because it's sort of
Oh.
looping and circling
Hmm.
around, which I think, you know, such a joyous image. But
Yeah, I
yeah,
can,
it's
and
really,
I can't even imagine like live. It's got to be just even more overwhelming in sort of the best possible way.
oh yeah, it's incredible, especially with the movement
Mm.
and the video. Yeah.
Wow. How's that been like composing for dance? Like,
Yeah, it's been a challenge. And so yeah, I guess I've been doing my homework a bit. Just thinking about, one thing about the Philip Glass piece um that I love is sort of, the music does one thing, but the dance does other things, and there are
mm-hmm.
these combined, I guess, layers of meaning or combined pathways, that you see happening
Mm-hmm.
simultaneously on the stage. And so I think that a big pressure for me, as I was going into composing this new piece for dance, was, oh, I want the music, to complement the dance, but I think, just accepting that, they can do their own thing and, maybe grow apart and then come back together again,
Mhm.
was something, that I sort of learned from this piece, from the
Yeah.
Philip Glass. Um, but yeah, it's been really
That's
exciting,
yeah,
and
that sounds exciting. That's really
yeah,
cool.
yeah,
Hope someday to get to see and hear it. So
yeah. I hope so too.
yeah, hopefully it'll come somewhere near here or
Yeah,
within
yeah,
driving distance.
yeah, yeah.
Well, okay. On the flip side of that, although that song puts me in a great mood, but and
Yeah,
that's
same.
yeah. But what is the song that puts you like if you are not in a good mood, will put you in a
Mm.
better mood?
Yeah, I don't know. I have a few answers for this question. I mean,
Okay.
immediately what came to my mind was like, sort of this, I guess, I don't know. I guess I call it like soccer mom music. I guess like the kind of songs that I imagine, like, a soccer mom, just dropped off the kids, cranks up the car and, like plays this with her besties. And, in that realm,
I
I
love it.
picked, yeah, Fleetwood Mac's, Everywhere. Um,
Yes.
yeah. Um, I almost embarrassingly, I guess, came to these sort of more, um, classic, more popular songs much later in life. I guess I
Mhm.
was sort of once I picked the cello as my instrument, I felt like I was living under a rock a little bit for all those years. But I heard this song, for the first time, a few summers ago, with a friend, and we were just driving in the summer, and just kind of being soccer moms together. Yeah, it's such a joy. It's such a joy, and just really dreamy. The vocals, the synths, the beat.
Yeah.
um,
I'm right there with you. Like I
yeah,
when I drop my kid off at school in the morning, like I could totally see myself putting this on and just
yeah.
like having a bit of a moment.
Yeah, 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 yeah. Absolutely. And I guess in a similar, realm, I also, this more recent song by, Hikaru Utada, the Somewhere in Marseille, um, is something that I always put on. It's sort of, I think it's maybe 11 minutes,
Mm,
produced by Floating Points, and yeah, it's just incredible, the way it kind of morphs and transforms, and yeah, the dreaminess,
yeah.
something you can dance to, and also the music video is incredible.
I don't think
Utada's,
I've seen the video. I'll have
yeah,
to.
they're like singing in an aquarium in
Oh
Tokyo,
wow,
and it's just
that
singing and
sounds.
dancing. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
that
it's
sounds
beautiful.
great.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, Back to Fleetwood Mac for a second. So this has come up a couple times that how they're sort of a choose your fighter band. Like you have
Mm,
to like who's your are you Stevie person? Are you Lindsay? Are you Christine? Do you have
mm.
a favorite Fleetwood Mac
Oh my God,
member?
I'm embarrassed because I don't even know like
Oh,
what that
okay.
means.
Oh
So
well, there you
okay,
go.
yeah, there you go. You open this new world up for me, and I will get back to you on that.
And the only other thing else, and this came up on a episode that came out last week, but it was recorded a while ago. So if you haven't seen the video, the live performance of Silver Spring, you have to. I will send you the link because it is.
Okay.
Lee from The Body and I talked about this for like 10 minutes. We were like,
Yeah.
"This is our Roman Empire." Is this performance because the song is about so Stevie and Lindsay were a couple and they
Okay.
broke up, and
Okay.
this is a song she wrote about them breaking up, and it is so intense. And they are playing this song. This was like 20 years later or something after
Wow.
and but she is just staring daggers through him, and it is so intense and
Wow.
incredible. So anyway,
I
I
love
could,
that. Okay, I can't wait. I can't wait to see that. We
yeah,
love, yeah, yeah.
you will, especially and as a person who loves drama, like as long as it's not my drama, like it is perfect.
Absolutely. Okay, I'm excited to check it out.
Okay. Okay, well, what is objectively the best song of all time?
Yeah. These are really, really hard questions. Okay. For this one, I went with another classical piece. Another classical. It's Bach's Prelude from the Well-Tempered Clavier, Book One, the very first one, the C major. And so, yeah, there are a lot of things about this piece. I mean, it's definitely, it definitely kind of fits a lot of the other or fits the other questions that you ask.
Sure.
I mean, I feel like it's definitely one of those things that is maybe overplayed, and you just see everywhere. I mean, I think recently it was featured in the movie Tar.
Right.
But there's something about this this piece. I guess first of all, when I think about it, it was written in the 1700s, in a time where I guess in terms of keyboard instruments, I guess maybe it was intended for harpsichord, which has a totally different sound, a totally different mechanism, and over time the harpsichord evolved into the piano as we know it. And even the pitch, at the time was, much lower than we're accustomed to today. So if you listen to historically informed recordings, it almost sounds like a pitch lower, like C major sounds like B major. Or somewhere, a little bit in between. And I think what fascinates me about this piece is that it's almost like a blueprint, if you will. Perhaps there wasn't a specific sound in mind or a specific instrumentation. Very simply, it's pitches and rhythms, notated on a sheet of paper. And, also at the time, there was no way to record. And so that was the way of, recording music was to write it down. And as a result of that, we have, I don't know, thousands of renditions, millions maybe of this piece, not only for keyboard, but it opens up the possibilities for other instrumentations as well. And I think that that's so powerful. So I guess, yeah, I don't know, if an alien showed up, then maybe I would show them this this blueprint, this piece of paper, and then see how it has transformed over time, the hands of different people, different instruments. Yeah. Also in the context of other songs. I mean, there's a famous kind of mashup of Schubert's Ave Maria with the prelude, with this prelude, and it's appeared in a lot of pieces of ambient music,
right?
So yeah,
that's awesome. Yeah, I mean, something like this, I like you said, there's a million versions. It's kind of ubiquitous in a way, but like for a reason. Like some stuff, it feels like it's like that because it's maybe kind of just there are other mechanisms shoving it down our throats,
right,
or something. Whereas this, like, yeah, I get why. It's because it's and I like I haven't ever studied classical music. I don't have any kind of classical education in that way. So like just hearing all this is super fascinating to me. So
yeah, I will say also, I mean, there's something just about the simplicity of it. I mean, the rhythm kind of just stays the same. They're just like 16th notes. But in the hands of a live performer, there's so much kind of breathing that happens within those rhythms. I mean, if you looked at it on the page and if you kind of fed it into a machine, it would just be nonstop, same rhythm. But in human hands, you are able to mold it and sculpt it and phrase it and draw out kind of different worlds with each harmony, and it's so beautiful and so simple and so concise, and it's I really feel like it's a perfect piece of music that contains a whole universe within it.
I'm not going to argue that at all. That's I love, like, I don't know. I love that explanation. I think that's really wonderful. So, well, what is the song that you used to love, but you've heard it recently, or you think about it now, and it's doesn't really do it for you anymore?
Yeah. Okay. So for this one, another Bach piece, actually, and it's the Cello Suite Number 1, the Prelude. I still, adore this piece, but I guess just after years of, sort of traditional classical conservatory training, there's just so much baggage to this piece, and having performed it and played it and, auditioned with it and had lessons with it, there's sort of this thing that starts to happen where everyone's telling you to play it this way or that way. And, at a certain point you, I don't know, just don't know what to do anymore. And so I don't know, maybe someday I'll come out with a recording of the Bach Cello Suite Number 1, but
for now,
for me, it's on hold, I would say.
Yeah, I have a feeling that with my daughter going into orchestra, and there's going to be like not necessarily this piece, but pieces that I'm going to hear all the time, like
right.
that I'm going to be right. That at first I'll be like, oh, how nice, and then I'll be like, oh my god.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, there's so much, I guess. There's so much about a classical training that's like just so rigorous, and that's about like all this drilling, and I don't know. I mean, it can.
Were you like really self-motivated and like with practice, and or were your parents like? That's the thing I'm worried about, is that she's not going to want to practice.
Right. Yeah. Good question. I think it definitely shifted over time.
Yeah.
I think when I was young, I definitely needed to be reminded to practice. I think for me it was more about practicing piano that was difficult. I think for cello, I don't know. I think I always just wanted to play the cello, but for piano I had to be reminded, to kind of do my homework and
right.
Okay. Iron out all the little kinks. But actually, when I was I think 12 or 13, my parents sent me to this music camp upstate called Meadowmount, where I think like Yo-Yo Ma went when he was little, and it's on Perlman. And it's funny because they actually like lock you in a practice room for 5 hours.
Oh my god.
Maybe I'm exaggerating, but it's part of the program where like you're required to practice, for 5 hours every day, and they have people listening at your door and like would kind of give you an X if they don't hear you practicing. And so I think summers, a few summers of that, and I make it sound like it was a prison or something, but it's there was a lot of fun to it as well, because you're meeting all these young people who are similarly passionate about music as you, and you're that you're doing the hard training to make improvement. But I think a lot of that kind of rigor was instilled in me at like a young age, and so
okay.
yeah.
Well, I'm not going to lock her in a room for 5 hours, but
No, definitely not. Unless she wants to, but
yeah, I mean, well, that was because I was about her age when I started playing guitar, and I didn't really take lessons, but I remember locking myself in my room and playing for hours until like my fingers bled, and because I wanted to, and so I don't know if she'll have that self like, and then I don't know, I don't have that. I couldn't do that now. I would lose my mind, but it's also different being 10 and being an adult.
Right. Yeah. I mean, if you sat me down in a room and told me to practice Bach all day, I would not be able to do it for sure.
Yeah. Right now. Well, that's really interesting. Okay. I'm curious to see what songs I'm gonna get sick of. Or what songs she's gonna get sick of, more importantly. Okay. Well, what is the song that people hate, people don't like it, but you don't care because you love it anyway?
Yeah. So I'm not sure if, I don't know, I guess it's quite a divisive piece of music. But for this one I picked John Cage, 4 minutes 33 seconds. Yeah. Yeah, I'm not sure it's universally hated, but yeah, definitely.
I feel like it's the butt of a lot of jokes and stuff.
Yeah, for sure.
So
for sure. Yeah.
Oh, that's a great answer.
And also I can't say I completely love it. But I sort of love the I don't know, just the energy behind it, just the idea that I'm not sure where the piece was premiered, but I do know that it's published, I think, by Edition Peters, which is this big music publishing company that, makes scores of Beethoven, and you open the score and, it's in 3 movements and it says tacit, 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 which means just, silent for each movement. And it's great because, I guess the instrumentation is open, but there have been renditions when a pianist will walk out on stage, in this classical concert setting, audience sitting there, lights lowered, everyone's shushed, and has their programs and everything, and walks out, places a score, opens the music, and closes the lid of the piano, and just sits there, and what you're left with is, the sound of the audience, the discomfort, the nervous laughs, the maybe, the anger, and there's something just so I don't know, simple, but kind of radical and subversive about that, that I really love. And I guess inspires me to kind of strive for elements of that in my own performance and in my own work, where we're sort of turning traditions as they connect to institutions, up on their heads, and pour all of that out.
I love the idea of, I mean, I think about this all the time, like something that makes me mad, like, not, this doesn't make me mad, but like like in that setting, especially like you were talking about, like in this traditional classic setting, people getting upset and stuff, I'd rather something like make me mad than just make me feel nothing, like,
right. Totally.
And, I don't know, and there's something very like punk rock about it to me.
Totally. Yeah. I'm dreaming someday, just go into Carnegie Hall and do something like that,
exactly,
in my own way.
God. Amazing.
Yeah,
I love it. Yeah. Oh, that is such a good pick for this question. That's great. Well, on a totally different note, do you consider yourself a romantic?
Yeah, for sure. Okay. I mean, my favorite composer of all time is Schumann. And so, this is kind of relates to my answer for the next question.
So what is the most romantic song?
So it's Schumann's. I picked Schumann's Fantasy, Opus 17. It's a work for solo piano. It's from, I guess, the earlier period of his compositional output. And Schumann, I mean, I guess we talked about him earlier in regard to forest scenes, but it's just such a world of poetry, and he was really steeped in, I guess, the literary movements of the time, kind of also the uh, uh, trends in visual art and philosophy, and so it's really just a world of poetry and fantasy, and a big part of Schumann's musical world is the love story with his eventual wife, Clara, who at the time was this superstar, like rock star pianist, um, who at the time that he was writing this piece, I think it was causing him, his love for her was causing a lot of distress because, he wasn't allowed to be with her. She was actually Schumann's piano teacher's daughter, I believe.
Oh,
And yeah, the father kind of, I guess, prohibited them from being together. And so there's this long anguish, before they're eventually married, um, where, yeah, he would write her letters, expressing his love. And this piece, definitely has echoes of that.
yeah,
But it's the last movement in particular, the third movement, which is sort of this, I don't know, 12, 13, 14, depending on whose hands, it's in, minute epic, where I guess it sort of feels like this piece was meant to be written for the piano. It was meant for
hmm
the piano as an instrument, especially with these incredible cascading harmonies. You're really like climbing with the
yeah,
player, to the heights of the piano and then dropping down low to the
yes,
register. I mean, it's so cavernous and so vast, and at the end becomes so beautifully intimate again, and just the harmonies as well. Like I really feel like when I'm listening to that piece, like this is what love feels like
yeah,
to me,
hmm
with all of its drama and
yeah,
the vastness and the intimacy. And yeah, I would
yeah.
say,
That's one of the things I love, how like how big it gets, and then how it, because like you said, it's like when I think about love, it's like this huge thing, and it's this tiny thing,
yeah,
and it's expressed so perfectly in this piece of music, and
absolutely.
so
Yeah,
good.
yeah. And it's fun for listeners, to, I guess, comb through with any of these classical pieces, actually, to kind of comb through different recordings. I mean, it's amazing that we have YouTube, because you
Right.
can also access recordings that don't live on, I guess, streaming platforms or whatever. You have live performances
hmm
by much older artists that exist, and to find, I guess, which pianist or which interpreter does
Right.
the kind of rhythm and pacing of the piece most resonate with you. And yeah,
Yeah. There is an endless, like, sea of versions, which can be, I don't know, I could be overwhelming, but like I just always think in general with music, there's stuff out there that I will
Mm.
find when I'm meant to find it, and
Right,
it'll like
yeah,
it'll be there. Hopefully. I mean, I
totally.
guess if the, I don't know, society collapses, it won't be, but that's I'll have bigger
Right,
problems.
right. It'll be in the ether,
Yeah.
yeah, somewhere, or in a record store.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
yeah. Yeah.
um that's yeah, I love that. Well, what's a song that changed your perspective on an artist?
Mm, mhm. For this one, I picked the album Spirit of Eden by Talk
Hmm.
Talk. And so yeah, I wasn't, I guess, I only really knew like the hits. Um when I until I had heard this album in particular. But yeah, I guess It's My Life, that incredible song,
Yeah.
I had known for a while. But a few years ago, my friend, actually, a composer friend, showed me this album, and yeah, it was just so unexpected. I I at first I couldn't believe it was the same artist, but
Right.
um, you know, listening again, you can hear the connections for sure.
Hmm.
Um, but yeah, it was so incredible. Just again gave me this feeling of vastness. It really kind of paints a sonic landscape, if you will, that you can travel through. um, I love that it's long form, so open
Hmm.
ended. Just touches on so many different stylistic um, goes through so many different stylistic changes um, throughout the course of the album. And um, yeah, I guess historically kind of paved the way for a lot of um, you know post rock music and
Right.
more open ended long form stuff. Um,
Do you
so
have a favorite song from the record?
um, I would say the opening. What is it called?
I can't. Yeah.
Shoot. I
I can't
guess,
remember.
yeah, I guess maybe that's why it's more about just the experience for me. But oh, it's called The Rainbow.
Oh yeah.
The Rainbow, yeah. Um, yeah, really
Yeah,
magical.
it's such an incredible record, and it's I don't know. There, yeah. I remember I had like a similar experience when I first started because I was familiar with the stuff that everyone's familiar with or whatever, and then like
Yes,
hearing that it was like you, it's like wait, this is the same band, and then you
right.
can yeah, if you really think about it and really listen, you can hear the connections, but it just sounds so. It's just like this huge leap. It's like not even. It's weird to call it a leap forward. It's just like this leap somewhere else that's still connected, and but I don't know.
Totally.
Um, and
Totally. Yeah. And I was reading about how I think initially when they were trying to put it out, they were met with, just concern from the label, that it wouldn't be commercially successful. And I think even they didn't perform the album ever. They didn't tour with it, because they believed, that it existed in
right,
its final form as a recorded piece of music. And yeah, so much admiration for that, you know, um, about
yeah,
just yeah, an artist just really, or I guess a band going, for what they want to, just do what doing what they want to do and making what they want to make. Uh,
yeah, yeah. And Mark Hollis is just like this genius. So,
mm, yeah,
um,
yeah.
well, I think a number of people have actually picked Talk Talk for this next question, but
Okay.
what are your favorite lyrics?
Yeah, okay. I had trouble with this one because admittedly, and I think it's my instrumental background, I don't really focus on lyrics, And I guess a
Hmm.
lot of the music, that I'm mentioning today doesn't really
Right.
have lyrics at all. It's instrumental. Um but for this one I picked actually Schumann's forest scenes.
Oh.
And the reason behind that is that there are these uh fragments of poetry that are inscribed in the score, that obviously you don't hear. It's a
Hmm.
work for solo piano, um, but the poetry is there for the player, you know,
Hmm.
to kind of see and maybe perhaps paint a picture of. I think initially, in the piece, Schumann had included poems for each movement of the piece.
Hmm.
And of course, each movement has its own title, like entry, hunters on the lookout, bird as prophet, haunted place. Um, but there's one movement where there's a poem by Schumann's contemporary Hebel. And I can read the text actually. It's so
Yeah.
incredible. I have it here. Okay, here it goes. The flowers that grow so high here are pale like death. Only one, there in the center, stands, a dark red. The color comes not from the sun. It never met its rays. It comes from the earth, which drank of human blood. Um,
Wow.
yeah, so dark and
I know.
yeah, and I think that's the text that was attached to the fourth movement, haunted places.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, it's really
That's
incredible.
really that's really cool. Like I again, it's like I love the idea of like putting these like poems or fragments of poems in the score to,
Right,
yeah, I don't give the vibe for better or for worse. Like I
right,
better, yeah, like that's, I feel like that's something like I would want to do because, well,
totally.
I don't read music, so like most of the scores I do are text based or whatever. But like,
Yeah,
and when I make music, that's how I think. Is I think in like images, and which, you know, a lot of people do that. I'm not pretending to be special, but I just like the that in a piece from like this period. Was that a very common thing at all?
I mean, I think, I mean, he wrote like a lot of songs,
Mm-hmm.
for for an actual singer,
Mm.
and piano. So he was using a lot of poetry. I think there are other examples of that in his music where, the words were not meant to be heard, or even, the audience maybe was not even meant to know what
Yeah.
the meaning was. But I think now that I think about it, there's another piano piece, and I'm forgetting which one. I'd have to do some digging. There's another piano piece where there's kind of an invisible third line. So in piano music, there's a treble staff and
Mm-hmm.
then a bass staff, and so for the two hands. And in this piece, there's like a middle line with like a singular melody that is not meant to be played. I think is only meant for the pianist to hear in their head as
Oh
they're
wow.
playing this, as they're playing the other
Yeah.
two parts. But it's interesting how like that the idea of this imaginary or invisible melody kind of
Mm-hmm.
shapes what the audience is actually hearing, without the audience actually knowing what that
Right.
melody is.
My God, that's so fascinating. That's really, yeah, that's really
Yeah,
cool.
Schumann's
Yeah,
really cool.
man. Yeah,
Yeah.
he was out there. He was doing
Yeah,
stuff.
for sure. For sure. Yeah.
I clearly need to learn more about Schumann, so that's gonna be my homework for
Yeah.
the weekend.
It's a really magical world to explore. Yeah.
um, let's talk about what is the last song that you fell in love with.
Mm, yeah. So speaking of um Basinski,
Hmm.
I recently heard the piece, or the album, I guess, Cascades. And this was actually on the way back from I recently received surgery, pretty intense surgery where I had to stay overnight in the hospital,
Mm-hmm.
and it was my first ever surgery, and waking up, you know, and then you know, uh, my partner came and drove me home after that,
Mm-hmm.
and I don't know if they put it on, but yeah, when I woke up from just a little bit of sleep, I was listening to Cascades. And
Wow.
it's this incredible, you know, piano loop that goes on for, I don't know, 45 minutes or so.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, something about just I don't know, driving and being in this space just post surgery, and I don't know, just in this new world, and it really put me into, I don't know, just a dream.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's what the best ambient music
Right.
can do, I guess. Yeah.
This is like the other example, like, or the opposite example, because
Right.
like this has become one of my favorite pieces of his. I
Mm,
love this piece so much.
yeah.
Um, yeah, I don't know, that piano melody.
Hmm.
If it has moved me to tears in time,
Hmm.
because it is so,
Hmm.
it just, it packs so much into it, like emotionally,
Hmm.
and it can, and I think it can also, like, this is music that for me it can depending on where I'm at, or something, like what my sort of mental state is, because it can be like really heavy, but it can also be like, yeah, like really dreamy and sort of, I don't know if it's, I don't know if it's cathartic is
Hmm.
the word I would use, but it's
Hmm.
just, oh my god, it's so beautiful. And
Yeah.
um yeah, it took me a while, like I remember when Disintegration Loops came out, like I was like,
Mm,
okay, like it honestly didn't do a lot for me, but then
mm,
over time I sort of fell in love with Basinski stuff,
mhm.
and he's just like larger than life.
Yeah, it's so
Like,
amazing.
yeah,
Yeah,
glambient. Gosh,
absolutely. Yes.
he needs to make glambient shirts if he has.
Yes. Yeah.
Oh man, did you see, was he played up there recently
Yes, I
with
did. I was
Claire,
at that
right?
show. Yeah, exactly. At Pioneer Works. Yeah,
Yeah.
that was such a magical night. He played
I
for
bet.
like, I don't know, 2 or 3 hours,
Oh
sipping a
wow.
glass of wine, on the tape machine, and yeah, with just, I love his, even if he's maybe not doing so much on the stage, he just has such a commanding
Mm-hmm.
presence,
Mm-hmm.
and such a flair. Yeah, it's just so entrancing and
I'm all,
intoxicating.
yeah. There's something like Phil Block, who passed recently. Like, I think about the thing about people like not doing much on stage. Like, he would literally tell you, I go up there, I press play, and then I play solitaire on my phone. And
Yeah.
and it's like, he's like, it's like, that's, and he was the same way. He had such a it's like, even just seeing him sit there while this
Right.
huge thing is happening around, it's like,
Yeah.
yeah, okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
I I wish I felt like I could do that, but I don't think I
Right.
can.
Totally.
Well, that's awesome. Okay. I'm so glad you answered this one. No one ever answers this question. What's the best hype song?
Okay, yeah. For me, I picked Sophie's "Nothing More to Say." It's one of her, I think, earlier songs.
Yeah, this is like, it's like 11 years old. I didn't realize how old it was until I was looking it up. I
Yeah,
was like, holy crap.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I think from, I don't know, 2013 or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's incredible. Another piece that, brings me so much joy. Um, and yeah, I think what's remarkable about it for me is, it is a pop song. It is very
Mm-hmm.
simple and catchy. But the ways that it, um, kind of builds up tension, and
Mm-hmm.
kind of gets noisier in places and grows, and then kind of comes back down. It feels so organic and exciting, and
Yeah.
just really electric and bubbly and all of those things. And so yeah, I don't know, that definitely hypes me up.
Absolutely. I think
Yeah.
she was so good at that, like taking things that seemed like there's a familiarity to it, because it's like, I mean, it's pop music, but she did it in a way that it was so much more than that. Like, I don't
Right.
know. I feel like, I mean, yeah, this is 11 years old and it's still, I don't even know. I even feel like saying she was ahead of her time does it a disservice, because it was like she was just this
Mm,
whole other
yeah.
thing.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I, yeah, people like her. I was talking about Arthur Russell the other day with
Mm,
somebody, and we were talking about how it seems impossible that someone like that he was doing what he was doing when he was doing it.
mm-hmm.
And like, I feel like Sophie's kind of this. I feel like it's going to be 10 years from now, and people are still going to be like, I
Mm,
can't. I don't know.
yeah, totally.
But yeah, this song is so good. This is a top shelf bop.
Yes.
Okay. Well, we have the two big questions left.
Mm.
So,
Mhm.
first, what is the song that means the most to you?
Yeah, for this one I picked Rachika Nayar's The Trembling of Glass. Rachika is a dear friend of mine. And we met through queer community in New York um, about 3 years ago now. And at the time, I was, kind of still in this classical realm of music making,
Mm.
playing other people's music, on an acoustic instrument. Um, and Rashika at the time was releasing her debut album,
Mhm.
and needed a cellist for the performance of the album, which was happening at the Shed. And I ended up performing with her, and that process of, working with her and performing and, becoming really close with her, I guess, opened up this whole world of, musical
Wow.
production and possibility and composition and, you know, transforming my instrument in the ways that she does with hers. And so, yeah, this is,
Wow.
an incredibly meaningful song for me. We
Yeah.
yeah,
I
went on to
love that
perform
too.
it a
Just
bunch.
like what saying, like what you're saying about how like it opened up this world of possibility, and because to me, like that's what this song feels like. Is it's
Oh,
like this?
totally.
There's this like hint of all this possibility, but it's also a little bit like it's like exciting but terrifying, and it's
Yeah,
all like she
yeah.
weaves all of that into this piece of music. So that's kind of wow. That's awesome.
It's a really incredible song, and yeah, we've played it together a bunch on tour where I add cello on top of the song, and
Oh wow.
yeah, it's just always so magical to, be there on stage with her and,
Yeah,
you know
that's
yeah,
awesome.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
And aren't you all? Isn't she also? Aren't you all label on the same label?
Yeah,
Or
I think she's done with
yeah, well,
but yeah.
sure.
Yeah, but
But
yeah.
this record was on the
Yes,
thing. Yeah. Okay.
exactly, yeah.
Um, that's awesome. Oh, that's perfect. I love that. This is such a good song. I hadn't listened to this record in a while, and then when I got your list, I was like, oh, I got to listen to that, and I forgot how much I love it. It's so good.
It's an incredible album, yeah, yeah,
Um, all her stuff's great though, but
yeah.
yeah. Okay, well, that leaves us with, at least in this moment in time, MIZU, what is your
Yeah,
favorite song?
yeah, yeah. Um, Let me think. Okay, I had 2 contenders for this. So my favorite song at this very moment, would have to be, "Adjust" by Bendik Giske. Bendik is a saxophone player. And this piece is, I guess it really just contains multitudes. I mean, it's simultaneously so simple, I think he's just
Hmm.
playing the saxophone through a mic and, it's mixed in a certain way that, you hear the clacking of his fingers on the keys of the instrument.
Yeah.
You hear his breath, you almost feel his body through this, simple um, musical material that kind of builds. And it's so incredible, within these very simple elements, the song contains, it feels like a whole cosmos.
Hmm.
It's just absolutely incredible. It's one of those pieces that I feel like encapsulate um, just humanity,
Yeah.
through an acoustic instrument that's been, recorded, and, processed and, um, you know, lives on.
It's such a, I mean, I love his stuff generally, but this piece is so good. It's so, it all, it, yeah, like the way it's recorded, I don't know. I want to know more about that because it's so like you were talking about how you can hear like the movements of his finger like that. It just adds the texture of it just expands. It weirdly like expands the world to me, but that also adds this sort of closeness and intimacy to it because you feel like you're there. I don't know. I can't. It's like like I said, it's a piece of music that I have a hard time explaining why it's as good as it is. But I think anytime somebody hears it, they're like, "Oh yeah, this is something. This is special."
It's amazing. Yeah.
It's a really good pick. What was your other pick that you were?
The other pick would have been Mabe Frati's Todo Lo Que Quería Saber. I might be butchering.
I think that as a non-native or as a non-Spanish speaker, that sounded good.
Okay, yeah. Mabe's music is, I don't know, has just meant so much to me over the past few years, and this song in particular, just, I don't know, it touches upon a lot of the other questions. It's a music that makes me cry, that brings me joy, that grounds me, and just it's so incredible. Her voice, especially, combined with her cello playing, which is so incredible, and the way that she records it, and the rawness in her cello playing, combined with these beautiful synths. It's another song that feels both so vast and so intimate at the same time.
This is, oh my gosh, I can't believe this was like on her first record too. This song is it's like, gosh, this is a song you spend a lifetime trying to write.
Totally.
She's amazing and just keeps getting. It's like one of those things, like her first record, it was so good, and then she just keeps like expanding her world, and it's
really exciting to witness.
It's Mabe Frate's world, and we are lucky to be in it.
Yes, I believe.
Well, those are both. I wanted to get a mention of her in here just because I love her music so much. So
yes,
and all her other projects, because she had like 2 other projects come out last year that were both incredible too. So
I know, girl stays busy.
I know. It's dang. Well, this was an absolute delight. Thank you so much for doing this.
Thanks so much, Brad. Thank you.
And everybody needs to get Forest Scenes when you can pre-order. I don't know when this is going to come out. This might come out before the record. It might come out after the record. I got to figure that out. That's hopefully it'll come out before. But Forest Scenes is out on NA Tapes March 22nd.
Yes.
Any shows or anything upcoming? I know that you got one like in 2 days, but this isn't going to be out before that.
Right. I have a tour lined up. I'm going to be in Europe for 2 dates, in Switzerland, and then at Rewire in April in The Hague. And then I'm playing a few Midwest shows: Chicago, Iowa City, Rock Island, Illinois, Minneapolis, and then West Coast. And this is all in May. I'll be in Portland, Seattle, Los Angeles, and San Francisco. So
awesome.
Yeah, come through. All right. Say hi.
Yeah, I will make sure to put links to all of that in the show notes.
Amazing.
And once again, thank you to MIZU for taking the time out, for putting so much thought and care into these answers, and just overcoming nerves and having a great time talking about this with me. So, Forest Scenes, March 22nd. Pre-order it now. Order it now. Get it. It's so good. It's it's a great record. And she's going to be doing some shows soon too. So keep an eye on that. There are links in the show notes, of course, and link to her picks in the show notes. As always, you can find me many places. Prince